It's funny what you'll trade for convenience. We do it every day. We trade our privacy for a search engine that knows what we want. We trade our data for a free-to-play game. We trade our time, our energy, our sanity, for a paycheck that just barely covers the bills. That I was the king of that trade-off. Alex. Just Alex. Another code monkey in the sprawling, beige-colored digital farm of Omnicorp. My life was a repeating loop of bad coffee, flickering monitors, and pointless meetings. The next pointless meeting on the docket was the Omnicorp Synergy Summit, a mandatory 3-day weekend retreat at a rustic lodge 3 hours away, designed to build team spirit through trust falls and forced mingling. The thought of it filled me with a special kind of existential dread. That Thursday night, 2 days before the summit, I was deep diving. I don't mean Google. I mean the real nooks and crannies of the internet, the onion sites, the private forums, the places where people discuss things that weren't meant for the front page. I was looking for an exploit in a new piece of software, but I found something else. That it wasn't a website. It was a link to a Sideloaded app. The forum thread was cryptic, filled with jargon I barely understood, but the consensus was clear: this thing was a game changer. It was called The Attendant. Out of sheer, bored curiosity, I downloaded it onto a burner phone I kept for things like this. The app icon was simple, a blank, white theater mask on a black background. When I opened it, the interface was shockingly minimalist. No sign-up. No terms of service. Just a clean, white screen with 2 text fields. The first field was a prompt: event to be missed. The second, desired alibi, a small line of text at the bottom read: service provided. Reconciliation will follow. That I stared at it. It had to be a joke. A data skimming scam. But the dread of the Synergy Summit was stronger than my sense of digital security. I typed, event to be missed, Omnicorp Synergy Summit, November 7th to 9th. Desired alibi, acute food poisoning. Homebound. That I hesitated. This was stupid. But my finger hovered over the submit button. What was the worst that could happen? It wouldn't work, and I'd have to endure lectures on cross-platform optimization while eating lukewarm chicken. I pressed it. The screen faded to black. The white mask icon appeared and seemed to nod. Just once. Then, a single word: attending. The app closed itself. I tried to reopen it, but the icon was gone. It had uninstalled itself. Weird, I muttered, tossed the burner phone in a drawer, and forgot about it. Friday morning, I woke up and called in sick. I put on my best, dying voice for my manager, Brenda. "Alex," she said, her voice dripping with an unnatural amount of sympathy. "Oh, my God. Don't you worry about a thing. We all saw the receipt." I blinked. The receipt? The one you accidentally posted in the team Slack last night? From the Greasy Spoon Diner? Alex, nobody eats their nuclear chicken and lives to tell the tale. Just get better. We'll cover for you. I hung up, my heart hammering. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't ever eaten at the Greasy Spoon. I scrambled to my laptop and opened Slack. There it was, time-stamped at 2:14 a.m. A message from me: ugh, this seemed like a good idea at the time. Followed by a digital receipt for one nuclear chicken platter. My team had responded. "Dude, RIP, said one. F, said another. It was a perfect excuse. But I didn't make it. I went to my kitchen, my skin crawling. I live alone. I'm meticulously clean. But as I went to take out the trash, I noticed the bag was heavier than it should be. I opened the lid. Sitting right on top was a styrofoam container, branded with the greasy spoon logo that I never opened it. I just stared at the greasy, translucent stain soaking through the bottom. My apartment door had been locked. My windows were secure. I took the whole trash bin, walked it down to the apartment complex dumpster, and threw the entire thing in that I spent the weekend in a daze. I locked my doors, triple-checked my windows, and watched the Synergy Summit unfold on social media, a miserable, rain-soaked weekend of name tags and awkward smiles. I felt a strange, cold relief. The app. The attendant, it worked. It didn't just give me an excuse, it created the proof. On Monday morning, I felt like I'd gotten away with something. I walked into the office, offered a few weak groans about my recovery, and sat at my desk. Everything was normal. Then, my burner phone, still in my desk drawer, vibrated. I pulled it out. It was dead, just as I'd left it. But the screen was lit. It was pitch black, and the white mask icon was back. I touched the screen. The app opened. The text fields were gone, the screen was new. It said, "Reconciliation." Below the text, 2 names appeared. They weren't anyone I knew. Just 2 simple names, Mark R. Lewiston. Sarah J. Klein. Beneath the names, a single, pulsating button waited. It just said, "Assign." I stared at the button. Assign, that it pulsed. A slow, digital heartbeat, in perfect time with the sudden, frantic hammering in my own chest. Mark R. Lewiston. Sarah J. Klein. My first instinct was denial. This was a test. A virus. A social experiment run by some bored, sociopathic developers. I swiped up to close the app. The screen didn't move. I held the power button on the side of the burner phone. The standard power off/restart menu appeared, but it was transparent, like a ghost. Behind it, the reconciliation screen remained, solid and demanding. The app wouldn't let me leave. I was in my cubicle. It was 9:07 a.m. People were milling around, getting coffee. I couldn't deal with this here. I grabbed the phone and walked, fast, to the men's restroom, locking myself in the end stall. The smell of industrial bleach cleaner filled my nose, but I was focused only on the glowing screen. "This isn't real," I whispered to the stall door. My other hand, the one not holding the burner, was already pulling out my Omnicorp-issued smartphone. My fingers flew. I wasn't just a code monkey, I was a data miner. I knew how to find people. It took me less than 30 seconds. Mark R. Lewiston. Age 54. A certified public accountant in Des Moines, Iowa. LinkedIn profile picture showed a smiling, harmless man in a slightly too large suit, holding up a "World's Best Dad" mug. His firm's website was bland. He liked golf. He donated to a local animal shelter. Sarah J. Klein. Age 26. A freelance journalist and blogger based in Portland, Oregon. Her professional blog was full of articles on city zoning laws and profiles of local restaurants. Her Twitter feed was pictures of her dog, a golden retriever, and complaints about the rain. They were normal. Sickeningly, terrifyingly normal. There was no connection. Not to me. Not to Omnicorp. Not to each other. A CPA in Iowa. A journalist in Oregon. The burner phone in my other hand suddenly chimed. It was a single, high-pitched note, like a digital ready signal. I looked down. The "assign" button was flashing a little faster. What was I assigning? My mind raced, trying to find a pattern. Was I assigning Mark to Sarah? Or Sarah to Mark? Was this just some corporate database task? Assign client to representative. My brain was desperately trying to make it make sense. To make it boring, service provided. Reconciliation will follow that I missed a 3-day weekend of trust falls and bad PowerPoint slides. What, in any logical universe, was the reconciliation for that? The phone chimed again. Louder this time. The piercing tone was starting to drill into my skull. Okay. I hissed, my voice cracking that I looked at the screen. The 2 names. The button. I had to do something. I couldn't just sit here. What if I just pressed the button? It didn't say, choose one. It just said, assign. Maybe it was random. Maybe it didn't matter. I just had to complete the transaction that my thumb was shaking. I closed my eyes. I wasn't doing anything. I was just touching a piece of glass that I pressed, assign, absolute, blessed silence. The piercing tone stopped and I opened my eyes. The screen had changed. The white mask was back, just for a second, and it nodded. Then, a new screen loaded, reconciliation initiated. The 2 names were still there, but now they were linked by a line. And they had new labels: Observer, Sarah J. Klein. Subject, Mark R. Lewiston. A loading bar appeared at the bottom of the screen. Processing. It filled, instantly, in one smooth, green line. It reached 100%, then, a single, horrifying update. A digital ping, assignment complete. Subject, expired. The screen went black. The burner phone powered down. This time, it felt final that I sat on the toilet lid, the cold plastic biting into my skin. My blood felt like ice. Expired. Not completed. Not finished. Not unsubscribed. Expired that IT was just a database term, I told myself. It had to be. Subject, expired. Like a session token. Like a free trial that I stumbled out of the stall, my reflection in the mirror a pale, clammy stranger. I went back to my desk. I told my team I was still feeling rough from the food poisoning. They nodded, sympathetically that I opened my web browser. I typed Mark R. Lewiston. I hit refresh, nothing. His CPA firm's website was still up. His LinkedIn profile was still smiling that I refreshed again. And again. For an hour, I sat there, pretending to code, my finger just clicking, and then, it happened. The news feed populated. A new, breaking article. From the Des Moines Register. Freak elevator accident claims life of local accountant. I don't remember screaming. I must have made some noise, though. Because the next thing I knew, my manager, Brenda, was standing over me, her face a mask of bovine concern, asking if I was okay that I couldn't answer her. I couldn't breathe. I was too busy staring at the byline. The name of the reporter who had broken the story, who had somehow gotten the exclusive, tragic details, the name was Sarah J. Klein. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't smash it. I did what any rational, terrified, and complicit person would do. I hid it that I dropped the burner phone back into my desk drawer, burying it under a tangle of obsolete charging cables and expired warranty manuals. I closed the drawer. I locked it. I threw the tiny key into the wastebasket under my desk, among the coffee-stained napkins and granola bar wrappers, out of sight, out of mind. That, of course, was a lie. The phone was a radioactive isotope. A lump of plutonium sitting 3 feet from my solar plexus. I felt like I could feel its heat, a cold, dead heat, radiating through the cheap particle board of the drawer, expired that I spent the next 2 weeks in a fog. I was a ghost at my own desk. I coded, I attended meetings, I drank the bad coffee. But I wasn't there. I was in Des Moines, in an empty elevator shaft. I was in Portland, typing frantic, exclusive details that I became obsessed with Sarah J. Klein, that I read every article she'd ever written. I backscrolled her entire Twitter feed, her Instagram. Pictures of her dog, a latte, a rainy Portland street. It was all so agonizingly normal. There was nothing. No hint of a sociopath. No gleeful, got the scoop, tweet. In fact, she hadn't tweeted at all since the article, her byline went quiet, that I checked the Des Moines Register website daily. No updates. The elevator company released a statement. A 1 in a million mechanical flaw. Deepest condolences. Mark R. Lewiston's online obituary was flooded with comments. A wonderful man. A pillar of the community. He was a real person. He had a family. I had traded his life for a 3-day weekend. The thought was so monstrous, my brain simply refused to hold it. It slid off, like water on wax. It wasn't me. I just pressed a button. I didn't do anything. The app did it. I was just a user. Following the terms of service provided. Reconciliation will follow. That I fished the tiny key out of the trash, wiping a smear of yogurt off it with a grimace. I started checking the phone. That I'd take it out when everyone else had gone home, the office bathed in the sodium yellow glow of the emergency lights. I'd sit at my desk, the burner phone in my palm. It was always dead. It would not power on. It was just a black, reflective rectangle. A mirror. I'd stare at my own pale, haunted face reflected in the glass, and I would whisper to it. Please. Don't. I don't know who I was talking to, and then, life, in its relentless, mundane way, moved on. The guilt didn't disappear, but it scabbed over. It became a dull, persistent ache instead of a screaming wound. I stopped checking the news. I stopped looking up Sarah J. Klein. I left the phone in the drawer, unlocked. That I got a promotion. Brenda, my manager, was moving up to a regional position. She'd recommended me to take her place. You've been so focused lately, Alex, she said, mistaking my haunted silence for diligence. We're impressed. It's a big step. More money, of course. More responsibility. I felt a genuine, unfamiliar spark of pride. Me. A manager. The spark died instantly. Of course, she continued, you'll have to complete the mandatory LTM course. Leadership and Teamwork Management. It's a bit of a formality, but, well, it's not optional. Okay, I said, my mouth dry. When? Where? She smiled, a bright, plastic, corporate smile. Next month. It's a full-week intensive. They fly everyone out to the main campus. The main campus. In Phoenix. A 5-day, all-expenses-paid trip to a beige hotel ballroom for trust falls and seminars on synergistic-based profit management. My head swam. The fluorescent lights of the office seemed to pulse, to throb. I felt a familiar, existential dread creeping up my spine, but this time it was different. It was cold that I couldn't go. I wouldn't. I was a manager now. I had real work to do. I couldn't waste a week on this garbage. It was an inefficient use of my time. It was an insult to my new position. That IT was an excuse. I knew it. But it felt good. It felt justified. That night, I stayed late. The office was empty. I sat at my desk. My hand, moving with a will of its own, opened the bottom drawer. It moved past the old cables. That I pulled out the burner phone. That IT was dead, as always. Cold to the touch. I plugged in the charging cable I'd started keeping just for this. The screen lit up. Not with a battery icon. Not with a powering on logo. It just opened the white mask. It filled the screen, and I swear, it smiled. Not a happy smile. A satisfied one. Then the mask faded. And the two familiar, empty fields appeared. Event to be missed. Desired alibi. My hand was shaking. Not from fear. Not entirely. It was a tremor of anticipation. A dark, ugly, powerful feeling that I knew the cost. I wasn't stupid. A man was dead. I had seen the digital blood on the virtual floor. And I had seen the person who, knowingly or not, had held the camera. Sarah J. Klein, but my brain, my wonderful, traitorous, efficient brain, had already done the math. Mark Lewiston was a coincidence. A tragic, 1 in a million accident that just happened to line up with my app usage. Expired was a server term. It had to be. And Sarah Klein? She was just an ambitious reporter. I'd read her work. She was a bloodhound. She'd probably just sniffed out the story through police scanners, gotten there first. It was all explainable that I deserved to skip this training. This wasn't about being lazy. This was about efficiency. My time as a manager was valuable. More valuable than sitting in a beige room listening to a 70-year-old man talk about leveraging dynamic paradigms. This time, I would be smart. I wouldn't pick a vague, messy alibi. I would pick something ironclad. Something sympathetic. Something no one would ever question. My fingers, steady now, tapped on the glass. Event to be missed. Omnicorp LTM course, Phoenix, December 3rd to 8th. Desired alibi, sudden, critical family medical emergency. Sister, acute appendicitis. That I specified acute. I wanted it to be sudden, but not life-threatening. A clean, in and out procedure. A perfect, unassailable excuse. My thumb hovered over the submit button. This is a tool, I told myself. Like a calculator, or a search engine. It just optimizes reality. I pressed submit, the white mask. The single, satisfied nod, attending, the app vanished. The burner phone screen went black. I was left alone in the humming silence of the office, the glow of my monitor painting my face. I exhaled. I felt lighter. I packed up my briefcase, locked my office, not my cubicle, and headed for the door. I was almost at the elevator when my real phone, my Omnicorp-issued smartphone, buzzed in my pocket. It was a text. From my sister, Kate, OMG. Stomach hurts so bad. Don't feel good. I stopped. My blood turned to slush. I stared at the message. Kate was a notorious hypochondriac. She always had something. A headache was a tumor. A cough was pneumonia. This was just her. It was a coincidence that my phone rang, the screen lighting up with her picture. I answered, forcing a sigh. What's wrong now, Kate? Alex? Her voice wasn't whiny. It wasn't her usual I googled my symptoms drama. It was small. And tight. And wet. She was crying. Alex, it hurts, she gasped. It's not like before. It's sharp. God, Alex, I'm scared. Where are you? I said, my voice flat, my knuckles white on the phone. Home. I think I'm gonna call an Uber, go to the ER, go, I said. Go now. I'll meet you there. I hung up. I didn't go to the ER. I went home. I sat on my sofa in the dark, my work clothes still on. I didn't turn on the lights that an hour later, my mom called, hysterical. Alex. Thank God. It's Kate, it's her appendix. It burst. She's out of the ambulance, they're rushing her into surgery right now. Oh, my God, Alex, the doctor said if she'd waited another hour, I had typed, acute appendicitis. The attendant, in its infinite wisdom, had decided a ruptured appendix was a much better, more convincing, more ironclad alibi. The next morning, I called Brenda. I didn't have to fake the tremor in my voice. I didn't have to fake the exhaustion. I didn't have to fake the panicked, hollow terror. I was a wreck. Brenda, I choked out, I can't. It's my sister. Her appendix, it ruptured. She's in the ICU. I have to be with her. Oh, Alex. You poor thing. Not another word, she said, her voice dripping with the exact sympathy I had ordered. Don't you dare think about Phoenix. You take all the time you need. Family first. We'll handle everything. Service provided that I spent the next 3 days at the hospital, sitting by Kate's bedside. She was pale, doped up on painkillers, a web of tubes connecting her to beeping machines. It was so weird, Alex, she whispered on the second day, her voice scratchy. I was totally fine. I was watching TV. And then, it was like a hot poker. Just, stab. I held her hand, my own hand freezing cold. I told her I loved her. I told her I was there for her. I was the perfect, concerned brother, and I watched her. I watched her every second, the guilt and the power twisting inside me like a strand of DNA. I had done this. To my own sister. I had stabbed her, just to get out of a business trip. On the 4th night, I went home to my apartment to get some sleep. I was exhausted. I was a monster. I walked into my bedroom and stopped. The burner phone was on my nightstand. I hadn't touched it. I hadn't charged it, the screen was on. It wasn't waiting for an event. It was past that, reconciliation, my heart sank, but I knew it was coming. I was ready for the names. Mark and Sarah. A new pair, but the screen was different. The app had been updated. There were 3 names. Dr. Eris Thorne, cardiothoracic surgeon, Zurich, Switzerland. Kenji Tanaka, sushi chef, Osaka, Japan. Maria Flores, kindergarten teacher, Miami, Florida. And beneath them, the single, a sign, button was gone. It had been replaced by 2 new, empty, pulsating boxes. One was labeled, subject. The other was labeled, observer. The app wasn't just telling me the consequences. It was asking me to choose the roles. I found myself in a new kind of hell, one of my own design. I was no longer just a participant, I was a middle manager in a bureaucracy of death. For 6 months, I didn't open the drawer. My sister, Kate, recovered perfectly. Too perfectly. Her scar, the doctors said, was minimal, almost invisible. She sent me pictures of it, marveling. I told her I was glad she was okay, my stomach churning every time her name lit up my phone. At work, I was a star. My family emergency had made me a sympathetic figure, and my return to work, filled with a new, grim focus, was mistaken for ambition. I was efficient. I streamlined 3 departments. I cut redundancies. I managed my team, and the cold, hollow-eyed look I gave them in meetings was read as serious and in command. I was a man who, in his own mind, was balancing a ledger. I had traded 2 lives to save my sister. Kenji Tanaka, the chef. And Dr. Eris Thorne, the surgeon, Thorne wasn't dead. Expired was for subjects. He was compromised, the news reports had been brutal. He was in a high-security psychiatric facility in Switzerland. He hadn't seen Kenji Tanaka die. He had experienced it. He described, in perfect, screaming detail, the sensation of a blade, not his precise scalpel, but a massive, razor-sharp tuna knife, severing his own spine. He described the smell of rice vinegar and the cold, metallic taste of his own blood. He was insane. An observer, who had been forced to feel the subject's death, from the inside out. Maria Flores, the teacher I had saved, was the only one who walked away clean. I told myself it was over. The reconciliation was complete. I had paid my debt. The app was silent. I was wrong. It wasn't a one-time transaction. It was a subscription. The drawer pulled me back in. It was an itch, a physical craving. I had a new problem. A real one. A project manager on my team, a guy named David, was actively sabotaging my work. He was accidentally deleting files, forgetting key deadlines, making me look incompetent in front of the new vice president. It was petty, infuriating, and it was threatening my new, fragile kingdom. I deserved to be here. I had paid for this position. One night, alone in my new corner office, I took out the burner phone. It felt warm in my hand. I plugged it in. The white mask smiled. The two fields appeared: event to be missed, a project failure. A public humiliation. My entire team's weekly review meeting with the new VP. Desired alibi, David. He makes a mistake. A big, public, undeniable, career-ending mistake. I don't care what. He just needs to be gone. I wasn't asking to miss a meeting. I was asking to win one. I was asking the attendant to remove an obstacle. My thumb, so steady now, pressed, submit, the mask nodded. Attending, the next morning, I walked into the glass-walled conference room. The VP was there. My whole team was there. David was at the front, his laptop hooked up to the main projector, ready to present his disastrously late figures. He looked smug. He clicked to his first slide. It was not a bar graph, the 80-inch screen, in front of the vice president, in front of our entire team, was suddenly filled with the most vile, illegal, and monstrous pornography I had ever seen. A tangle of images that scorched the eyes. David froze. His face went white. He clicked again. It just kept going. Someone screamed. Brenda, my old boss, who was there to oversee, physically recoiled. David was babbling. That's not. It's not. It's a virus. I've been hacked. The VP, a woman with eyes for blood, just stood up. She didn't say a word. She just pointed at the door. Security had David in handcuffs before he'd even logged off. The meeting was, of course, cancelled. Service provided. I sat at my desk, my heart a cold, hard stone in my chest. I had done it. I hadn't just used the app. I had weaponized it. I had destroyed a man's life, his job, his reputation, his freedom, to win a corporate spat. I felt powerful. I felt sick. I sat there until the office was empty. The sun went down. The cleaning crew came and went. At midnight, I was still sitting in the dark. My burner phone, on the desk in front of me, lit up. Reconciliation. I picked it up. I was ready. I knew the drill. The screen loaded. Observer, Sarah J. Klein. My blood stopped. My blood froze. Sarah. The journalist. The very first one. The original observer. The one who had reported on Mark Lewiston's freak elevator accident. She was she was back. The app remembered her. It was recycling her. My God. What had I done to her? What had that first observation done to her mind? Below her name, the second box pulsed, waiting, subject, ____________. The app wasn't giving me a list. It wasn't giving me a surgeon, a chef, or a teacher. It was just an empty, blinking text field. The app wasn't asking me to choose a subject. It was asking me to find one. The cursor. It just blinked, subject, _____________. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. More than expired. More than compromised. It was an empty space. A vacuum. A job offer. My hands were ice. My first thought, the only one that cut through the roaring in my ears, was Sarah. The app is recycling her. This wasn't a new assignment for a new, random observer. This was a repeat. The app was going back to the well. What had that first observation done to her? The elevator. The freak accident. She'd gotten the scoop. She'd broken the story, but she'd gone quiet after. Before I typed a single letter into that blinking void, I had to know. I was a data miner, damn it. I was a manager. I didn't act without intel. I turned to my Omnicorp workstation. My real computer. My real power. I left the burner phone on the desk, the cursor blinking, waiting, patient as a spider. I searched Sarah J. Klein. Her professional blog was gone. The domain was for sale. Her Twitter, once filled with pictures of her dog and complaints about the rain, was now locked. Her LinkedIn profile was still there, but it was hollow. Her job title had changed 6 months ago, right after the Mark Lewiston story. She was no longer a freelance journalist. She was a data integrity specialist at a private security firm I'd never heard of. It was a non-job. A cubicle. A place to go. A place to hide. This wasn't enough. I needed to know what happened to her. I went deeper. I used the tools I wasn't supposed to have, the backdoor search protocols I'd built for my own amusement. I cross-referenced her name, her old handles, her digital footprint. I found her. It was on a forum. A deep web, encrypted support group. The kind of place you only find if you're looking for it, or if you're already there. The group was called The Unblinking. Her username was observer_SJK. The posts were not from a data integrity specialist. They were from a prisoner. My blood ran cold as I read observer_SJK. 4 months ago. I can't sleep. When I close my eyes, I'm not in my apartment. I'm in Iowa. I'm in the dark. I can smell the grease on the cables. I can feel the jolt. He didn't even have time to scream. I did. I woke up screaming. Observer_SJK. 2 months ago I lost the job at the paper. They said I was unreliable. I couldn't make calls. I couldn't look at a screen. Every time the phone rang, I thought it was him. The man from the elevator. Calling to ask why I watched observer_SJK. 1 month ago. It's a feed. It's just a feed. It's not real. I keep telling myself that. But the reports are. The names are .observer_SJK. 3 days ago. It's quiet. It's been quiet for so long. I'm so scared of the quiet. But I'm more scared of it coming back. Please. God. Don't let it come back. That I had done that. I had broken her. I had traded her sanity for a 3-day weekend. And Dr. Eris Thorne? He hadn't just seen a death. He had felt it. The app wasn't just assigning observers. It was creating them. It was forcing a psychic link. It was making them feel the subject's death, in full sensory, high-definition horror, and now. Observer, Sarah J. Klein. The app was sending her back in that I looked at the burner phone. The cursor blinked. Subject, ____________. I was being asked to pull the trigger. And to force a broken, terrified woman to watch, to feel, the bullet land that my whole body was shaking. I couldn't. I wouldn't. I grabbed the phone, my thumb moving to the power button, to smash it, to throw it against the wall. Service provided. Reconciliation will follow that I had just destroyed David's life. I had used the app to win. This was the reconciliation. If I refused, what would happen? Would it pick a subject for me? Would the name Kate appear in that box? Or my mother? Or me? The app didn't offer a cancel button that I sat back down. I was trapped. I was a monster. But I was a monster who would not let this thing hurt my family. I had to pay the toll that if I had to do this, if I had to feed the machine. I wouldn't make it random, this time. It wouldn't be a random CPA. It wouldn't be a sushi chef. I was in charge. I was the manager. I would make this reconciliation efficient that I opened a new browser tab. I didn't search the deep web. I searched the local news that I found him in less than 5 minutes. Leland Cole. A 22-year-old with a trust fund and a smirk. 2 weeks ago, he had wrapped his vintage Porsche around a light pole at 2 a.m. He'd walked away with a scratch. The 19-year-old girl in his passenger seat hadn't. She was dead. Leland's blood alcohol was 0.19. His lawyer was already arguing a faulty breathalyzer. The girl's family was on the news, their faces shattered. He was out on bail, and everyone knew he would walk that he was a subject. He wasn't an innocent. He was a problem that I wasn't a murderer. I was a problem solver. I was doing what the legal system couldn't. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was justice that I was doing the world a favor. I was doing Sarah a no. I wasn't. But I was going to do it anyway. My fingers, cold and steady, typed the name, subject, Leland Cole. I stared at the two names. The broken observer. The deserving subject. My thumb moved. I pressed, submit. The screen didn't go to the white mask. It didn't say, attending. It flashed, instantly, assignment accepted. Connection established, observer _SJK. Feed, live. Subject, Leland Cole, and the screen, the black, empty screen, it flickered. And then it lit up. It wasn't a menu. It wasn't text. It was a video feed that I was looking, from a first-person perspective, through a pair of terrified, shaking eyes, at a man I'd never seen. He was asleep in a lavish, modern bedroom that I wasn't just assigning. I wasn't just observing. I was watching. The screen was no longer a menu. It was a window. It was a live feed, cast in the sickly green and black of high-quality night vision. I was looking into a bedroom. Lavish, sterile, all glass and dark wood. In the center, in a bed that looked like a museum exhibit, was Leland Cole. He was asleep, breathing peacefully. My first, frantic instinct was to close it. I swiped up. Nothing. I jabbed the power button. The screen didn't even flicker. The app had taken over the phone. I was locked out. Or, more accurately, I was locked in. I was forced to watch. The room was utterly still. No shadows moved. There was no black-clad figure, no slasher with a knife. There was just silence. Then, I heard a sound. It came from the burner phone speaker. It was faint at first, then grew. It was a sound I knew, the sound every young man craves, the high-pitched, throaty whine of a European sports car engine being revved. Hard dot on the screen, Leland Cole stirred. He heard it too. He sat bolt upright, his eyes wide, pupils huge in the dark. He looked frantic, confused. The engine sound was growing, filling my office, filling his bedroom. It was an impossible, disembodied sound. It had no source. The whine became a roar, then a deafening screech of tires on asphalt. Leland screamed. He threw himself back against the headboard, his face a mask of pure, uncomprehending terror, and then, the sound of the crash. A cataclysmic, explosive crunch of metal and shattering glass that made the phone in my hand vibrate violently, but nothing in the room had moved. No car had burst through the wall. Leland was still screaming, until his body snapped that it wasn't a person. It was a force. An invisible, omnipotent hand. I watched, my own throat locked, as Leland was seized. His left arm was pulled back at an impossible angle, shattering with a wet, audible crack. His body was folded, his torso slammed against the heavy, steel and glass bed frame with the force of a head-on collision. He was being twisted. Wrapped. His legs were broken. His neck was wrenched to the side. The event was recreating the physics of the crash. It wasn't killing him, it was wrecking him. It was poetic. It was precise. It was monstrous. The entire event lasted maybe 3 seconds, then, silence. The engine noise was gone, the feed lingered, unblinking, on the result. Leland Cole's body, a broken mannequin, was wrapped around the corner post of his designer bed, a perfect, grotesque mimicry of his Porsche wrapped around the light pole. He was expired. The screen held on the image for 3, 5, 10 seconds. An eternity. I was going to be sick. Then, the feed cut to black, the white mask appeared. It nodded, subject, expired. Observer, reconciled. Transaction complete. The phone powered down. I scrambled back from my desk, fell out of my chair, and was violently sick on the plush carpet of my new office. The acid burned my throat, but it was nothing. I was a murderer. I had watched a man be disassembled by a ghost, and Sarah. Oh, God. Sarah.my hands, slick with cold sweat, scrambled for my workstation mouse. I had to know. I pulled up the browser. The unblinking forum.my breath hitched. A new post. From observer_SJK, timestamp, just now. It wasn't him. It wasn't the driver. It was me. I was the girl in the passenger seat. I felt the door fold. I felt the light pull. The glass in my... Oh God. I'm her. I'm dead. It made me be her. It made me feel her die. It's not over. It's not over. I read it again. The app hadn't made her feel what Leland felt. That would have been a mercy. It had made her feel what his victim felt. It had punished the drunk driver with death, and it had punished Sarah, the observer, with the torment of the innocent. This wasn't justice. This was something else. A complex, layered, personalized hell.my rage was so sudden it choked off my fear. I grabbed the burner phone. This was it. I would smash it. I would throw it into the river. I would end this.my hand was raised, the phone lit up in my palm. It wasn't the reconciliation screen. It wasn't the event fields. It was a clean, minimalist, corporate-looking interface. White text on a black background. Welcome, manager. A loading bar filled. User, Alex Jensen. Status, probationary, complete. New status, Tier 1 manager, active. Beneath the text, 3 new, permanent options appeared. New event request. View personnel. Reconciliation queue. It wasn't a joke app. It wasn't a curse that IT was a company. And I had just been promoted. I stayed on the floor for a long time, the acrid smell of my own sickness filling the expensive air of my corner office. My heart was a frantic bird in a cage, but my mind was cold. Calculating, Tier 1 manager, active, the words glowed on the screen of the phone, mocking me. I had just watched a man be turned into human origami by an invisible force, and my reward was a title that my first absurd thought wasn't about Leland, or Sarah, or the app. It was about the carpet. I had to clean the carpet. I was a manager. I couldn't have my new subordinates, my Omnicorp subordinates, walking in tomorrow and smelling this failure of composure that I crawled to the executive washroom, soaked paper towels, and scrubbed at the floor, my hands shaking so violently I could barely hold on. I was a murderer, but I was also a fastidious employee. The cognitive dissonance was a high-pitched scream in my skull. When the stain was a less obvious but still damp and discolored patch, I sat back in my leather chair. The burner phone was waiting. My new dashboard that I am a manager, I told myself. It's my job to understand the systems I'm given that my finger, now clean, tapped, reconciliation queue, that it wasn't a list of names. It was a feed. A work ticket queue, like the IT system we used at Omnicorp. It scrolled endlessly. Ticket number 94582, event, avoided jury duty, S. Baker, status, pending assignment. Ticket number 94583, event, skipped dental cleaning, R. Chen, status, pending assignment. Ticket number 94584, event, feigned illness, family reunion, M. Davis, status, pending assignment. Ticket number 94585, event, avoided Omnicorp LTM course, Jensen, status, complete. Manager, self-assigned. Ticket number 94586, event, skipped traffic court, L. Cole, status, reassigned. Manager, Jensen. Closed, my breath caught. Leland Cole. His original sin, in the eyes of the attendant, wasn't the drunk driving. It wasn't the girl's death. It was skipping traffic court and my event request for David. It wasn't even listed. That was different. That was a manager action, not a user request. A dental cleaning. A family reunion. The attendant didn't care about morality. It wasn't a scale of justice. It was an accounting ledger. It was the universe's most brutal, petty bookkeeper. It balanced the books. You avoided a minor inconvenience, and the cosmos demanded a payment. The size of that payment, that was apparently up to management. My blood ran cold. I was just one of, how many? I backed out and tapped, view personnel. A search bar appeared. Search, observer/subject/manager. My fingers flew, search, observer. Query, Klein, Sarah J. A file opened. It was cold, corporate. It looked like an HR profile. Personnel file, Klein, Sarah J. Status, active, restricted. Designation, observer, empathic imprint. Assignments, 2, M. Lewiston, L. Cole/victim. Profile, high sensitivity. Prone to psychic fracturing. Do not assign to somatic transference events. Asset is, fragile. Current disposition, holding. Pending psych evaluation, fragile. Asset. Restricted. I felt the vomit rise again. I swallowed it down. I searched Thorn, Eris. Personnel file, Thorn, Eris. Status, decommissioned. Designation, observer, somatic translator. Assignments, 1, K, Tanaka. Profile, asset failure. Complete psychological collapse. Unfit for service. Current disposition, expended. Expended. I was part of a machine that broke people and threw them away. My last search. My hands were numb. Search, manager. Query, Jensen, Alex, my own file. Personnel file, Jensen, Alex J. Status, active, probationary complete. Designation, manager, tier 1. Specialization, event creation, obstruction, subject acquisition. Reconciliations, 3, M, Lewiston, K, Tanaka, L, Cole. Notes, high efficiency. Rapid escalation from user to manager. Demonstrates willingness to leverage system for personal/professional gain, ref, event hashtag David P. Shows initiative in subject selection. Prime candidate for advancement. Prime candidate for advancement. They hadn't just approved of what I did to David. They had promoted me for it. I leaned back, the leather of my chair creaking in the silent office. I understood. This wasn't a curse. This wasn't a demon. This was a company. A service provider. The attendant was just its public-facing brand. It provided convenience to its users, and it outsourced the cost, the reconciliation, to its managers. We were the middlemen. We were the ones who got our hands dirty, balancing the cosmic book so some kid in Ohio could skip his algebra final, and I was good at it. The burner phone chimed. A new notification, right on my dashboard. Not a ticket. Not a file. It was a direct message. It came from manager, tier 4. The message was one sentence. Welcome to the team, AJ. We have a problem in our Miami office. A kindergarten teacher named Maria Flores. She was reconciled, but she's talking. Please review her file. We need an efficient solution. Underneath the message, 2 buttons appeared, resolve. Assign to observer. Maria Flores, the name hit me like a physical blow. She was the one I'd saved. The kindergarten teacher. The one I'd spared by sacrificing the surgeon and the chef. She was my one, single, pathetic claim to not being a complete monster, and she was talking. Of course she was. The lie I'd told myself, that I had saved her, crumbled into dust. I hadn't saved anyone. I had just pushed her to the back of the queue. We have a problem in our Miami office. Our office. The message from manager, tier 4, was a welcome memo. A performance review. A test that I was a data miner before I was a murderer. I would not press a single button without knowing the facts. My fingers, steady, tapped the view personnel icon, search, observer/subject/manager. I typed, Flores, Maria. Her file was different from Sarah's or Dr. Thorne's. Personnel file, Flores, Maria E. Status, reflagged, pending review. Designation, bypassed subject. Assignments, 1, ref, ticket number 94577, bypassed by manager A. Jensen. Profile, subject was part of a balanced reconciliation, ref, Thorne/Tanaka. No psychic imprint was assigned. However, unit has begun exhibiting resonance. Notes, subject reports miraculous recovery from a previously undiagnosed, fatal heart arrhythmia, on the exact date of the Thorne/Tanaka reconciliation. She is claiming divine intervention. Public testimonials, church groups, local news, are creating data anomalies. Her miracle is generating inefficiency. It is drawing attention to the event. Current disposition, flagged for managerial resolution. Inefficiency. She wasn't talking about the app. She wasn't a loose end. She thought she'd been saved by God. She was so grateful for not being expired that she was going to church and telling people. And the company didn't like the publicity. It didn't like data anomalies. It didn't like anything that didn't balance to a perfect, silent zero. That I looked at the options again. Resolve. Assign TO observer, assign TO observer, was the old me. The brute force me. That would mean reopening her reconciliation. It would mean finding a new observer, or God forbid, reassigning Sarah, and this time, Maria would be the subject. She would be expired, that I had sacrificed 2 people to save her. Killing her now would make that inefficient. That my thumb, with a cold, managerial logic that disgusted me, hovered over the other option. Resolve. I was a Tier 1 manager. I had a specialization. Event creation, obstruction. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was an HR matter. I tapped resolve. The interface changed. It wasn't a request form. It was a tool. Target, Flores, Maria E. Desired outcome, cessation of testimonials. Code, silence. Select toolkit. Event, obstruction. Event, neutralization. Event, recalibration, recalibration. My skin crawled. It sounded so clean. So corporate. That I chose event, obstruction. I didn't want to know what the others did. A new, simple field appeared. It was my old friend. The alibi. But this was an alibi for her. Provide obstructing alibi. How do you obstruct a miracle? My fingers typed, the logic cold and clear. You don't. You discredit it. You provide a new, rational explanation for the old problem. Provide obstructing alibi, clerical error at her hospital. Her original diagnostic charts, fatal arrhythmia, were swapped with another patient's. Her miraculous recovery was her new doctor discovering the original file-keeping mistake. She was never sick. There was no miracle. Just human error. A perfect, soul-crushing, boring explanation. It would invalidate her joy. It would make her look foolish to her church. It would silence her. I pressed submit, the white mask. The nod, attending. The app returned to my dashboard. The message from Tier 4 was gone. The whole Maria Flores problem was just erased from my queue. I sat in my chair, the damp patch on the carpet the only evidence of the night's horror. I had just gaslit a woman's miracle. I had destroyed her faith, her joy, just to clean up a data anomaly. My burner phone chimed. A new notification. IT wasn't a ticket. It wasn't a message. IT was from the app's home screen. A new icon had just appeared on my dashboard, right next to View Personnel. It was a little green icon. A $sign, dollar. I tapped it. A new screen. Compensation ledger. Jensen, reconciliation. M. Lewiston, base pay. Reconciliation. K. Tanaka, base pay. Reconciliation. L. Cole, manager bonus. Obstruction event. M. Flores, efficiency bonus. Total, pending deposit, new event request. View personnel. Reconciliation queue. Dollar, I stared. A bonus, my Omnicorp workstation, which had been asleep, lit up. A new email. From Omnicorp Payroll, subject, notification of unscheduled payroll deposit at my real bank account. My actual, Chase Bank checking account that a one-time payroll adjustment in the amount of $25,000 has been processed for your account. Thank you for your continued synergy. I wasn't a murderer. I wasn't a manager, that I was a consultant. And I had just been paid, handsomely, for a night's work. I checked my bank account, that I checked it on my laptop, I checked it on my phone, I called the automated teller line just to hear a robot voice confirm the balance. The $25,000 was there. Deposit, Omnicorp payroll, synergy, that it was the synergy that got me. The attendant wasn't just in my life. It was in my job. It was woven into the very fabric of the corporate beige that surrounded me. How many synergy bonuses had been handed out at this company? Was our CEO a Tier 10 manager? The thought was so big, I had to push it away, that I went to work. I sat in my corner office. I looked at the patch on the carpet, which I'd scrubbed with club soda from the executive lounge until my knuckles were raw. It looked fine. No one would notice that I was a new man. I was a man who had earned $25,000 before breakfast for administrative work. My Omnicorp's salary, my new manager's salary, was a joke. A rounding error. I was a consultant for a company that paid in blood and bonuses, and my 9 to 5 at Omnicorp was now just my cover that I sat through a 2-hour meeting on Q4 projections, nodding in all the right places, while the burner phone sat in my lap, under the polished veneer of the conference table that I was working. My real job, that I opened the reconciliation queue. It was my inbox. It was full. Dozens of new tickets, all the petty conveniences and skipped responsibilities of people I would never know. Ticket number 94590, event, skipped gym session, T. Lee. Ticket number 94591, event, ignored charity, Chugger, K. Patel. Ticket number 94592, event, faked Wi-Fi outage, WFH meeting, J. Gomez, skipped the gym? Ignored a charity mugger? The pettiness was staggering. The attendant was the universe's ultimate micromanager that I tapped on ticket number 94590, skipped gym session. The old me would have agonized. The me from 3 days ago would have tried to find a deserving subject. The new me? The me with $25,000 in his checking account. I was a manager. I was efficient, that I tapped assign. A new, streamlined interface popped up. Assign reconciliation. Select observer, from pool. Select subject, from pool. I tapped, from pool. A list of names spun by, like a slot machine. It stopped. Observer, H. Nguyen. Subject, R. Washingtoni. Didn't search them. I didn't check their files. It was faster not to. They were just resources that I hit, confirm assignment. The white mask flashed. Attending, 0.2 seconds later, my dashboard pinged. Ticket number 94590, closed. Subject, expired, treadmill malfunction. Severe lacerations. Observer, compromised, acute agoraphobia. Panic attack. My phone chimed again. $. The compensation ledger opened. Payment processed. $150. $150. For 2 clicks that I looked up. The VP of sales was still droning on about leveraging our assets. I nodded, thoughtfully, under the table. I kept working. Ticket number 94591, ignored charity, Chugger. Assign. From pool. From pool. Confirm. Closed. Subject, compromised, sudden onset philanthropic mania. Bankrupted. Payment processed, $100. Ticket number 94592, faked Wi-Fi outage. Assign. From pool. From pool. Confirm. Closed. Subject, expired, router fire. Severe burns. Smoke inhalation. Payment processed, $150. By the time the Omnicorp meeting ended, I had cleared 23 tickets. I had made $3,450. I had killed 7 people and ruined the lives of 16 others. That it was the most productive morning of my life. That I was just clearing my inbox. I was the most efficient, brutal, and well-compensated paper pusher in the history of the cosmos, but as I sat in my office, watching the number in my compensation ledger tick up, I felt a new, familiar feeling. Not guilt. Not fear. That I felt bored. This was a grind. This was the busy work. This was just processing. The real money, the $25,000. That was for managerial resolution. That was for my skills. My specialization, event creation, obstruction. I wasn't a paper pusher. I was an architect. That I looked out my glass-walled office, across the floor. I saw Brenda, my old boss, the one who had promoted me, walking with the new VP. They were laughing. They were walking toward the office of Mark Finley. The man who had been my primary rival for this corner office. The man I'd thought I'd beaten, but who, I now realized, was just biding his time. He was smart. He was ambitious. He was a problem. That he was a data anomaly. That I watched Mark stand up, smiling, shaking the VP's hand. He was a threat to my synergy. A slow, cold smile spread across my own face. That I was done with the reconciliation queue. That was for chumps. That I picked up the burner phone. I opened my dashboard. I tapped the button that had changed my life. New event request. The interface was crisp, professional. Request type. Personal, avoidance, or professional, obstruction. I tapped, professional, obstruction. A new form loaded. Target, ____________. Desired outcome, __________________________________________________________________ Requesting manager, Jensen. Submit for Tier 4 approval. This wasn't a request. This was a proposal. A contract. That I was no longer a user. I was a client. I was using the attendant's resources to solve my own, personal, professional problems. My fingers typed, target, Mark Finley. Desired outcome, a public, career-ending failure. Something, inefficient. Something that makes him look unstable. A data integrity mistake that costs the company, but not in a way that can be traced. I hit submit for Tier 4 approval. That I wasn't asking to skip a meeting. I was asking the attendant to work for me. Follow-up 10. The phone chimed, a polite, professional ping. It was the manager, Tier 4, I'd spoken to before. Message, AJ. Your proposal Finley, Mark, has been flagged by the system. It's aggressive. We appreciate aggressive. But your previous obstruction, event #David P, was noisy. It left a significant data footprint, HR reports, security logs, potential legal. We prefer quieter, more permanent solutions. My heart hammered. A rebuke. A new message followed, immediately. Message, your request as is denied. However, the obstruction goal is approved. We are offering a substitution. We recommend event recalibration for this asset. It is cleaner. Please review and confirm. Event recalibration, the word I'd avoided with Maria Flores. The one that sounded final. No, I whispered. I wouldn't do it. I was a manager, not that I had to know. I had to see the result. I was a data miner. I went to the Personnel tab. I couldn't search for a tool, but I could search for its victims. That I opened the reconciliation queue and used the Filter by Resolution tool. I was getting good at the interface, filter, event, recalibration, one file. A closed ticket from 8 months ago. Ticket number 94109, event, attempted whistleblowing, internal memo, J. Smith, status, complete. Manager, Tier 2. Resolution, event, recalibration, J. Smith. An attempted whistleblower. I remembered him. He was in accounting at Omnicorp's Dallas branch. He'd raised a fuss about some payroll discrepancies. He'd been fired, of course. That I opened my Omnicorp browser. I searched J. Smith, Dallas. He was easy to find. He had a blog. The blog he had apparently used to try and blow the whistle that I opened it. The tell-all post was gone. In its place were posts. Thousands of them. One every 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For the last 8 months, the posts were not words. They were data.post, 8:45 a.m. 001011010100101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010101010Post 9 a.m. 49.122.1.19, 89.2.14.5, ping 404 milliseconds, reroute. Post 9:15 a.m. 001011111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111111 4 months. It was all the same. An endless, perfect, pointless stream of binary, server pings, and data strings. Recalibration didn't kill you. It didn't drive you insane. It edited you. It retasked you. It had turned J. Smith, the human problem, into J. Smith, the utility. The man had been turned into a human bot. A data entry node. His mind had been hollowed out and rewritten to be efficient. This was the attendance version of a lobotomy. I looked up from my desk, through the glass wall, at Mark Finley. He was at his desk. He was schmoozing on the phone, one foot up on his chair, laughing, gesturing with his free hand. He was ambitious. He was charismatic. He was human. He was a problem. And he was standing in my way. I looked back at the burner phone. We recommend event recalibration for this asset. It is cleaner. Please review and confirm. I thought about my $25,000. I thought about the $50,000 I'd probably get for this. I thought about Mark and his stupid, charming laugh, and how he was going to take my office, my synergy, my power. He wasn't a person. He was an asset that was performing badly. It was my job to correct that. My thumb, cold and steady as a surgeon's, tapped, confirm. The screen flashed. Attending, I didn't look away. I couldn't. I watched Mark Finley. He was still on the phone. Listen, I told the VP, he was saying, his voice booming with false confidence. If we can't leverage that asset, then we're... He stopped. Mid-word. Mid-gesture. He didn't twitch. He didn't gasp. He just paused. His hand, which had been cutting through the air, froze. His eyes, which had been bright and laughing, went dull. It was the most subtle, most horrifying change I had ever seen. The light went out, slowly, his hand lowered the phone, hanging it up without finishing the call. His other foot came down to the floor. He turned, in one smooth, economical motion, to his workstation. His back, which had been slouched, straightened. He was now sitting with perfect, rigid posture. His fingers, which had been so expressive, moved to his keyboard, and he began to type. That I could see his monitor from my desk. He had opened a blank Excel spreadsheet. Brenda, my old boss, walked past his desk. "Mark," she said, cheerily. "Mark, I need those Q4 projections by." Mark Finley did not look up. His fingers did not stop moving. They were a blur, filling cells with an endless stream of code. He just said, in a flat, empty, monotone voice, "Processing." Brenda recoiled, a look of repulsed confusion on her face. "Mark? Are you okay?" "Processing," he said again, the same exact tone. "Data integrity must be maintained." "Processing." She backed away, and I was left alone, watching that my burner phone chimed. "Event complete. Target, Finley, Mark, status, recalibrated. Notes, asset, Finley, M, has been successfully retasked. His personality-driven inefficiencies are resolved. He is now an efficient data entry node. This is a clean, permanent solution. Well done, manager." A second notification. Compensation ledger, pending deposit, $50,000, managerial efficiency bonus, and a final, new message. From, manager, Tier 4. "Excellent work, AJ. Your probationary period is truly over. We're slating you for a Tier 2 review next quarter. You're one of us now." I was no longer Alex. Alex was a ghost, a chrysalis I had shed, left behind in a drab apartment with a yogurt-stained key. I was manager, Jensen. And my life was, for the first time, 100% efficient. The money was secondary. But it was there. I didn't quit Omnicorp. That would be inefficient. My cover was perfect. I was the star manager whose team, a silent, focused trio that now included the recalibrated Mark Finley, produced flawless work. I sat in my corner office, my Omnicorp workstation running a looping script that made me look active on the company servers, while I did my real work. That real work was on the burner phone. That IT was a new kind of 9 to 5. I was a high-frequency trader on the stock market of human misery. I'd wake up in my new condo, a sterile, glass-walled box overlooking the city, bought with a single wire transfer, and I would clear my inbox. Ticket number 95101, event, lied to spouse, P. Smith, assign, pool, confirm. Subject, expired, carbon monoxide. Faulty heater. Payment, $150. Ticket number 95102, event, cut in line, Starbucks, A. Garcia, assign, pool, confirm. Subject, compromised, sudden onset OCD. Ritualistic counting. Payment, $100. Ticket number 95103, event, stole office supplies, L. Wright, assign, pool, confirm. Subject, expired, severed artery. Box cutter accident. Payment, $150. They were just transactions. The names, the events, the resolutions, they were noise. I was just balancing the ledger. By 10 a.m., I'd have processed 30 tickets and made $4,000. It was a grind, but it was a profitable grind. That real satisfaction, however, came from the new event request button. That new condo building had an inefficient doorman. He was too friendly. He talked. It was a waste of my time. Target, Frank, doorman, 1800 Glass Street. Resolution, event, recalibration. The next day, Frank was a silent, efficient statue who simply opened the door. Perfect that a driver cut me off on the interstate. Target, blue Tesla, license, SNRG 01. Resolution, event, obstruction, permanent loss of driving privileges via clerical error at the DMV. My commute was now 1.2% faster. Efficient that I was a god. A quiet, administrative god of small things. I was a cleaner. I was making the world better by removing the inefficient, the annoying, the problematic. The company loved me. I was closing tickets, generating my own obstruction contracts, and my dollar ledger grew at a dizzying rate that I was on my way to Tier 2. I was a prime candidate. I was, in the cold, corporate language of the attendant, synergized, and then, one Tuesday, I made a mistake that IT was inefficient that I was in my condo, processing my morning queue. Expired. Compromised. I was on a roll. I was also distracted. I was watching my stock portfolio on my other monitor. I was thinking about what color to get my new, custom-ordered Porsche. A new ticket came in. Ticket number 95488, event, missed AA meeting, K. Jensen, status, pending assignment. I didn't even register the name. I was just clicking assign. From pool, observer, M. Diaz. From pool, subject, T. Bryant. Confirm, I clicked it, the screen flashed. But not the usual, attending, that it was a new color. A deep, angry red, error 403, managerial conflict of interest. Assignment, rejected, my blood stopped. My fingers froze on the screen. K. Jensen, Kate, my sister. She'd missed an AA meeting. My sister, the one I'd almost killed with a ruptured appendix, she was a user. She had used the app. I hadn't saved her. I had pushed her. My first miracle had just been a competing transaction that I scrambled, my heart pounding, a disgusting, inefficient emotion. Fear. I went to the Personnel tab, search, Jensen, Kate. Personnel file, Jensen, Kate A. Status, user, chronic. Designation, low-level user. High volume, low impact requests. Assignments, 124, ref, skipped shifts, ignored calls, feigned illness. Notes, asset is highly inefficient. Creates constant, petty reconciliation tickets. Flagged for review. She'd been using it. For everything. For years. She wasn't a hypochondriac. She was just lazy. She was a problem, and I had just tried to reconcile her. The burner phone vibrated in my hand, so violently I almost dropped it. That it wasn't a ticket. It wasn't a bonus. That it was a new message. Not from Tier 4. It was from administration, internal affairs. Manager A. Jensen. Your attempt to reconcile a flagged familial asset, ref, Jensen, K, has been logged. This is a severe violation of Tier 1 conduct. Your efficiency is now in question. An immediate audit of your managerial fitness is required. A Tier 3 auditor has been assigned to review your performance. They will observe your next shift. Do not deviate. Do not attempt obstruction. Do not attempt contact. Your audit begins now. Assigned auditor, Klein, Sarah J.